All right, guys, it started in 2013 with Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, and now it is ending with James Wan's Aquaman 2 or Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Is this final film in this franchise any good, or do they end it all on a stinker? Let's talk about it. My name is Brandon Keith Avery, and this is just my opinion. Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Just My Opinion for my Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom movie review. And if this is your first time finding me and you happen to like the video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, while it's been a long time coming, there has been so much speculation about what's been going on behind the scenes within this film. I did not know what to think. This is being directed by Mr. James Wan, who is the first person to direct Aquaman in 2018. I have a copy right here on Blu-ray 4K. I love watching this movie at home. Those underwater IMAX scenes look great with all the bright colors. Beautiful, beautiful filmmaking. When I saw this the first time, I thought it was okay, but then the second time I fell in love with it. This is one of my favorite in the whole DCEU. Going back to James Wan, let's just look at this man's filmography real quick and celebrate everything that he's done. He did the first two Saw films that came out 2003, 2004. Freaking fantastic, as well as Dead Silence and Death Sentence. His first four films, in my opinion, he knocked it out of the park. Insidious was pretty good. It scared the crap out of me, but he also did The Conjuring Part 1 and Part 2. Two of the best horror films that I've seen in a long, long time. Now, when it comes to the Furious 7 films and the Fast and the Furious franchise, I really didn't care for that one. That's okay. Everybody has a bad day at the office. But like I said before, Aquaman was great. I loved it. And I did not see Malignant, and I did not see the MacGyver TV series. If you saw one of those two, please let me know in the comment section below. I actually do want to hear from you. But yes, James Wan is responsible for this film, and in my opinion, he's one of the better directors in Hollywood right now. Now, when it comes to my expectations for this film, guys, I'm not gonna lie to you. I thought this film was going to be horrible. They were super duper low in the toilet. Just from all the speculation that was going on behind the scenes with this film, the number of reshoots, people talking about the test screenings failed miserably, scored some of the lowest, and people were mad that there was a baby that died in the film. Also, the lack of promotion for this film. There was no red carpet, no press junkets. You know, where I reside here in Dallas, they usually have all the screenings in one location, but we had to drive 35 minutes out the way to see this film in a small theater. And when I got in the theater, the way that they were not even promoting the film on screen before it starts just gave me a bunch of red flags. And I was like, wow, this is going to be absolutely horrible. Let's go ahead and get this thing out of the way. But did it turn out horrible? Let's talk about it, guys. But before we get into all the nitty gritty, before I talk about all my likes and dislikes, let me tell you exactly what this film Aquaman 2 is all about. Having failed to defeat Aquaman the first time, Black Manta, still driven by the need to avenge his father's death, will stop at nothing to take Aquaman down once and for all. This time, Black Manta is more formidable than ever before, wielding the power of the mythic Black Trident, which unleashes an ancient malevolent force. To defeat him, Aquaman will turn to the imprisoned brother Orm, the former king of Atlantis, to forge an unlikely alliance. Together, they must set aside their differences in order to protect their kingdom and save Aquaman's family and the world from irreversible destruction. Now, guys, if you're watching this, you probably already know how I feel about this movie if you saw my fresh out of the theater reaction, or you can just tell right now with how big I am smiling. But just getting this out of the way, guys, I am so freaking surprised. I absolutely love this movie. Now, when I say that, that does not mean I thought it was absolutely perfect or the best comic book movie that I've ever seen in my entire life. No, that would be a bit much. But my goodness gracious, I am surprised. I love this movie, and I honestly can't wait to see it again. At this point in time, I'm pretty confident saying I may have liked it more than the first Aquaman film. And if you didn't like that, that's fine. All things are subjective. But I don't know, maybe it's just because my expectations were so super duper low, but I really, really had fun with this. But of course, I'll talk about my nitpicks later on. But man, this is a good film and I think everybody should see it. Now, one of the first things that I really did like about this movie at the very beginning, when we're getting to know Aquaman and where he stands with his family, we get a nice little recap. But really what touched my heart is the relationship that he has with his son. I don't want to spoil with you exactly what happened, but they are able to relate to each other in ways that I did not expect, and also Aquaman didn't either. It's a nice heartwarming moment, and I embraced the whole thing and just kind of set the tone of what you was about to get for the rest of the film. The next thing that I really did like about this film is the expansion of Atlantis. If you did not know, which I'm probably sure you did, the surface of this planet is mostly covered by water, I believe around 75%. And that's a lot of territory. In real life, we have not come remotely close to mapping everything that is underwater. We probably never will with the pressure. But this film takes you deeper than we've ever gotten before within the first film. There are multiple kingdoms, 6 or 7 of them, and you can't explore every kingdom like you want to. This film doesn't do it all the way, but you do get much more than you got within the first film. And I really did like that. Underwater is pretty cool to me. There's just so much down there. And even if this is fake comic book superhero stuff, it's still really nice to expand your imagination. And this film helped you do that, not just with how things looked in the sea life, but also with all of the politics that goes on in Atlantis. There were some things that they expanded that I really did like. Kind of a nitpick that they really wasn't present in the first film, but it was something fresh and new that we didn't get before, so that this sequel is not just a repeat from the first film that came out in 2018. And speaking about the first film, there was a number of things that happened that really ticked off people and came across annoying. They repeated that in the second film, but they corrected it and made it better. At one point I was like, oh my gosh, I remember they did that the first time, but they didn't beat you over the head with it and just kind of toned it down a bit. And I was like, there you go. If you're going to do the same thing, do it right. And I really did appreciate that. I'll just say there was so many times in the first film where characters are having lines of dialogue, then all of a sudden a giant explosion just comes out of nowhere, surprising you with the jump scare. Yes, that's fine the first and second time, but when you do it like 7 or 8 times, it can be quite annoying to where you can predict it. They did not do that in this second film, and I really do appreciate that. And guys, if you get to know me and my personality, I can be one of the most silliest, goofiest people on the planet. I'm always laughing at my own jokes too, cracking jokes and all that. And I like that in my entertainment as well. But sometimes there is a place for it and there isn't a place for it. And one of the things that rubbed me the wrong way with the first Aquaman film, or at least the first time I saw it, is there was a lot of times where it was just silly and goofy for no reason at all. That is the same with this film right here, except the placement was done much better. I don't like in serious scenes when they're diluted in my films and television, when they want to have some type of slapstick goofy moment. They had them in this scene as well, but it wasn't as much. And again, I just thought it was placed in the right way. And that really did help with the storytelling and pacing of this film. There was no scenes that was kind of ruined by that, in my opinion. Also, a lot of people out there are not big fans of Amber Heard, aka Amber Turd. And so just want to let you know, she plays Mary in this. She's not in the film that much. She is in the film, and I thought she was in the film as much as she needed to be. She could have been in it more because she is the mother of Aquaman's child. And so that would make sense. But I wasn't saying to myself, oh man, Mira needs to be in this film more. This film is suffering because she doesn't have more screen time. She was in it at the very beginning, middle, and end, and it was necessary in my opinion. So if you're worried about that, throw that in the trash. It's not going to be a big deal, and so you can relax. And besides the expansion of the universe of Atlantis, everything underwater and all of the politics, there was also an expansion of technology, things that we didn't see before as far as their tech. And I like that too. If you're a geek and you're into that type of thing, that may get you to the edge of your seat like, I've never seen anything like that before. I want to Google it and study it after I see this movie. So that's pretty cool too. And guys, again, one of the things that I loved about this first film is all of the scenes underwater are shot with IMAX cameras or IMAX lenses. And that really does make the image and the color pop as far as how bright it is and how sharp it is. We get the same thing here, but at the same time, there was so many beautiful shots above ground on some island. And when the camera pulls back and just shows you how big the scenery is and the scope, I was like, wow, this is incredible. I am loving these visuals right here. So you get great shots underwater and above ground, and I was eating it all up. And guys, let's talk about this action or choreography, and that's one of the main things that we're gonna be showing up for, and you can tell that I loved it in this movie. By the way, I am dancing right now. Guys, I love me some superhero landings and poses, and they was not forced or shoehorned in this movie at all. They hit the nail on the head, whether it was Black Manta, whether it was King Orm or Arthur or Aquaman. And man, I loved it. If you see the trailers, you know when Orm broke out of prison and the way he powered up, I was like, ooh, when I saw the trailer, and I was the exact same way when I was watching this movie. The way he is twirling his bow staff around and fighting and all the choreography, and then has plot within the action as well, whether he's trying to just knock somebody out or kill them, was spot on. I loved it. It reminded me when I did Taekwondo when I was a child and I was practicing my katas and all that with useful fighting skills. I loved it, man. And that was across the board. There was not one fight scene in this entire movie that I did not like. They really did sit down with the pen and pad and the storyboards, or however they make these films in pre-production today, and ironed everything out to the nitty gritty, and they did a hell of a job. I loved it. Whether it was one person fighting three people one-on-one, or one person running through a corridor trying to sneak around to steal something, get away, whatever, they knocked it out of the park, and I loved it. It was not one punch, not one kick, not one attack, one blow to where I felt that was out of place. All martial arts enthusiasts are going to have fun with this. Now, at the same time, I don't want to just overhype it and just say that this is some type of martial arts film. It's not. But when they did have those parts in this movie, it fit well, perfect like a glove. I loved it. My goodness gracious, I want to see more. And even when they're doing all of that, whether it's fighting or they're running from some foe or a number of cannon fodder, they were actually able to put in comedy and light moments in there too without ruining it. That is something I have complained about with Marvel all the time for the duration of just saying, man, I like the jokes, but sometimes when you put it in the serious scenes, it cuts the tension. That's not the case here. There was this scenes where they're running from the life and was throwing jokes in there, and I was laughing. I was laughing at all of the jokes in this movie. They wasn't corny. They wasn't over the top, and they knew when to go from funny to serious. And that goes into the relationship of Jason Momoa and Patrick Wilson, King Orm and Arthur, Aquaman. I love their relationship in this movie. It was fantastic. One of the best things, the way they got along and how they had to come together to form an alliance. Possibly one of the best relationships in this movie. It was fun. It was funny. It was smart. It just made sense. And I also love the way the King Orm was talking to Aquaman, talking to Arthur. Sometimes they was making those light jokes, and sometimes he was like, bro, how can you make jokes right now? Let's be serious. That was in the movie, but also kind of talking to the audience in a way, breaking the fourth wall. And I thought that was kind of a clever way to like say, hey, I know we had too many jokes in the first film and y'all may have thought it was goofy, but just let you know, we did hear you. We saw all your comments and your reviews, your recaps and all that. And we're taking note and we're going to make this much serious. I think you'll enjoy yourselves. Like I actually felt that they were saying that to the audience in between the lines. And I really did like and appreciated that as well too. And I also always say this, when you have your superhero comic book films, there needs to be a full display of powers and abilities, given their skill set within the story across the board. And they had that's a perfect 10 out of 10 in this movie. Everybody was throwing down. Everybody was fighting. Everybody was giving full effort. I felt that we got to see all of Aquaman's powers, all of Mira's powers, all of Black Manta's powers, all of King Orm's powers. Even the people that did not have no powers, they was throwing bows and getting involved in the fight as well. And it wasn't corny or nothing like that. You could be saying to yourself, okay, how can this certain human being right here get in the fight when the final battle goes down? And they were useful. And I was like, hey, I like this. You're using your brain. Of course, one of the characters like, okay, I'm a human. they didn't actually do this, but I can just imagine them saying, okay, I am a human being. How in the hell? And I ain't ever fought before in my entire life. How in the hell can I help out here with these freaking gods, these Atlanteans or whatever, got all these tridents and magical powers? What can I do? Well, hey, they still jumped in there and did what they did, and it helped. They helped win the fight, win the war, win the battle. I'm so excited. I can't even get my words out and articulate them right now. But I was like, hell yeah. You know, saying I was there like this, bobbing my head, and everybody else was too, because I can see it out of my peripherals. I just love when people give full effort, full support, you know what I'm saying? Don't just sit there like a damsel in distress, like whether you're a man or you're a woman, you know, but everybody was throwing down, throwing bows, and I was in there, man, in there like swimwear. Oh, man, and we got to talk about how Black Manta powered up in this film right here. Man, the fight between Black Manta and Aquaman in this film was dope as hell. I was loving that. Seriously, I'm not exaggerating. There was a couple of times where I was oohing and all like, ooh! When he was throwing bows in the film, I didn't care. I did not care. I'm usually one that's quiet and don't disturb people in the theater, in the auditorium with me, but I was geeking out. The only thing that would have made it better is if it was just a little bit longer, but it was still damn good, man. I really loved it. I was talking to One Take when I got out. I was like, bruh, you're gonna love this. I can't wait to chop it up with him after he see the film, but I was enjoying that, man. They really did do Black Manta justice. He stepped up his game, and it was great in the first film. And I'm trying to think, when they fought in this first film outside, it was a lengthy fight scene. And I want to say it wasn't as long in the sequel, but I'm still satisfied, you know, for the most part. I'm not over here like, man, they should have done this, they should have done that. I mean, it was a good length, you know. I was happy. There was only, when it comes to the fighting, there was some things that I was really surprised about, and how they wrote out the plot and the action to where it made sense, to where everybody is giving full effort. And it was a few surprises. I was like, okay, I like how they did that. I like how they brought this out and combined this right here. I bet they're going to end the fight right here. And they kept it going just a little bit more. I was like, oh, okay, I like this. I like where it's going. It gave me a little bit more. And I was like, okay, this is nice. Okay, keep it going. Man, it was one more fight that we could have got that would have just been the icing on top, cherry on top, all that. I'm still satisfied. I'm not disappointed. I am satisfied, but if they just wanted to go overboard with it, kind of like how they did with Man of Steel in 2013, like, in my opinion, Man of Steel 2013 is one of the best comic book superhero movies ever, just considering the action. Not the whole movie, just the action when he fought General Zod at the end. That's one of the best. It was so much in that film to where it was just overbearing, you know, like, okay, this is just too much destruction. Right, this scene, well, the scenes in this movie, it was just right there at the brink. They stopped it. They didn't go overboard. They could have went overboard, and I would have been fine with that. But I'm a happy camper over here. The score was also fantastic, and it was consistent as hell with the first one. When they was dropping the music, I was like, yes, turn the volume up, hit that bass, and they did. I really did enjoy that. And lastly, guys, I really did enjoy Randall Park as Dr. Stephen Shin. He had a much larger role in this film as well. And he was great. I loved him. At first I was like, oh no, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? But probably in the middle of the film, he revealed, you know, why he was where he was, and that was all cool too. I like that. So across the board, this film is fantastic. Now, that is really going to sum up everything that I did like about the film. Now let me just talk about some few nitpicks here and there. The very beginning of the movie, the first 5 minutes, it did start out a little goofy and silly, and I was worried. I was like, oh Lord, this is kind of funny, man, but if y'all keep this whole tone throughout the movie, I can see why those test scores was bad. But I also said in the good part that once you saw the relationship between Arthur and his son, you know, you was able to embrace it, and I was like, okay, we're going to have a good time here. Another nitpick I have is there was no Willem Dafoe in this movie. He had a scheduling conflict. I really did like his character Wakil in the first film, but he is nowhere in this movie at all. They did mention his name and what happened to him, but I don't remember at the time of me recording this, so I'm sorry about that. Also, giving the threat level of this movie, they should have called it Justice League. At least Superman, I know that they weren't going to be able to do that because of, scheduling, money, and, Henry Cavill is not going to be Superman anymore. So why would he come back? And just a whole bunch of reasons. But for story-wise, for plot-wise, it would have made more sense for at least Superman to come in and help. Maybe not Wonder Woman, maybe not Cyborg, given what their powers and abilities are. But I was saying to myself, okay, if I don't want to spoil anything, but if the stakes are this high and this is what's going to happen, if the good guys lose, you need to call Superman in. So that's like another nitpick. And the last thing is, there is a plot point at the very beginning of the movie that doesn't necessarily tie in to a scene at the end. Or what I'm trying to say is, I don't know if it makes sense. I gotta either see it again or talk to somebody that's like, okay, if they were here at this point at the very beginning, why were they X, Y, Z at the end? I don't know if that really adds up. And I'm trying to speak in code here because I don't want to spoil it for you. But other than that, guys, I have nothing bad to say about this movie. I freaking loved it, loved it, loved it. I'm so surprised for this. Again, my expectations were low. I know I'm hyping things up right now, but I had a damn good time with this movie, and I cannot wait to see it again. I'm going to see it again in theaters, IMAX ticket, and all of that. And in this movie, the first Aquaman film, only the underwater scenes were shot with IMAX. I believe that's not the case with this film right here. Let me see here. Okay, they got an aspect ratio of 178:1 and 239:1, but I also saw something with 190:1. I think the IMAX scenes are going to be taller in this one than the first film, and so that's just a great thing. But guys, I'll go ahead and give my rating for this film at the very end, but for now, that is just my opinion, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy this video, please go ahead and give me the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, helping me reach my next milestone of 50,000 subscribers. Also, guys, this Saturday around 6:30, 6 p.m. CST, I will be doing my super duper superhero comic book live show where I'll talk about nothing but all the superhero and comic book news live this Saturday. So make sure you subscribe, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment, and all that if you're into that type of thing. Again, it's just going to be nothing but superhero and comic book stuff going live 6:30, 6 p.m. CST, 30 minutes difference. I don't know exactly what time, but make sure you subscribe and come and check that out. So if I had to rate Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom out of a 1 out of 10, man, I don't want to go overboard, but I feel comfortable with a strong 8.5 out of 10, a strong 8.5 out of 10. I'm trying to think if I want to give it a 9. I don't know. Hopefully I'll do a spoiler review for this film. And after I see it again, or just afterwards, after I talk about that plot point that didn't make sense, because I try to grade harder. But I feel really comfortable with a strong 8.5 out of 10, maybe a 9, but I'm going to stick it at 8.5 out of 10. But guys, again, I just want to thank you so much for tuning in. And before you go, don't forget that I'm B. Avery, and that's just my opinion. Peace.